In 1973, an interesting thing happened in New York City. An elevated highway running through some of the densest, most developed, and most valuable land in the entire country just fell down. Yep, just fell the fuck down. And this was not due to some huge earthquake or terrorist attack or something, but because of a single overloaded truck, ironically carrying concrete to repair a different part of the highway. Now, you might think that this would be a huge problem for the city, a major highway just falling the fuck down, but actually the city just kind of left it like this in a giant pile of rubble for ages before, and this is real, awarding a no-bid contract to clean it up to the very company that had overloaded the truck in the first place. In the intervening time, of course, a small child riding a bike fell into a hole in the rubble and died. But the city didn't much care about that because cyclists, after all, are expendable and their deaths are expected. But we at least learned something from this. Because it dramatically proved, per usual, an insanely common misunderstanding about traffic, cars, and city planning. Because the reason the city just left the huge pile of rubble there instead of just rebuilding it was that they found that people could get around just fine without it, and traffic actually flowed better without the highway there. This is something the citizens of New York, however, did not learn at all. You see, every time any change is proposed that takes away space from cars, especially on such a critical piece of infrastructure as a highway, everyday citizens freak the fuck out. They imagine the traffic that would be on that highway spilling over onto neighborhood streets, clogging everything in sight. How will anyone get around? There will be gridlock everywhere, and commutes will climb into the hours. Except in the real world, that doesn't actually ever happen. And this collapse is one of the many, many examples that demonstrate that. In fact, 53% of the traffic from that road, from the highway, simply disappeared overnight. And you might be thinking, how's that even possible? It's possible because almost everyone views traffic and our transportation systems incorrectly. Traffic is thought of almost as a force of nature, like there's some huge mass of cars that shows up at predictable intervals, like tides or a migration of birds or something. Except that's not what traffic is. Traffic is the result of decisions humans make. It's not rainwater flowing down the mountain that if you plug it up or dam a river somewhere or something, will divert itself and just flow another way because that water is coming down off the mountain somehow. It turns out if you remove lanes or an entire highway, you always get fewer drivers, which means less traffic. And with roads, people tend to fill up the available infrastructure to a traffic level just below the point where it would become extremely annoying to use it if more people did. However much traffic that is, whatever the capacity is. This is the concept of induced demand. So if you add lanes, people will change their habits to fill up those new lanes to the same level as before, and you'll end up with more traffic than before. Conversely, if you take space away, you end up with less traffic overall. If you want less traffic and you want to drive your car more easily and pleasurably, what you actually want is less space, not more, and much more attractive options other than cars that entice people out of their cars, which are the things that are actually blocking your way. This is why it's infuriating in New York City to see drivers and the general public not understand this simple principle, constantly fighting bike lanes, bus lanes, and transit improvements. If you're a driver here, you should be leading the charge for building huge, expansive bike networks. Even if you never plan to set foot or wheel on one yourself, you should want bus lanes and bike lanes everywhere. You should be trying to get as many of your fellow drivers out of their cars as possible. Hell, demand a bike network so good and safe that children can ride on it, freeing up their parents from driving them around. Imagine your work commute in the morning without all those school kids being driven around in their 3-ton SUV in front of you. And if you remove space from cars, you also get all sorts of other nice stuff. Where that abomination of a highway once was, we now have a string of parks, greenways, and jogging paths for all New Yorkers to use. This is a much better way of doing things. Let's try it.